Does meat cause inflammation, and why is that relevant to your journey to a leaner and fitter and healthier body? Inflammation is a process by which your body defends itself against insult and injury. For example, infection. Inflammation is required to fight any infection. However, repeated attacks of inflammation is known as chronic inflammation, and often that results from repeated insults from sources such as smoking, alcohol, and poor diet. And chronic inflammation is a type of inflammation that we see in Western society, and it's a contributor to obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and also Alzheimer's disease, and also cancer. So we often hear, repeated often, this false claim that red meat causes inflammation and causes more inflammation than other foods. Now, the first thing, so I want to address this and explain why it's important to your journey to a leaner and fitter body. So the first thing to say is all foods cause some level of inflammation in your body. If you eat anything, you're putting food into your mouth and into your gut, it's going to instigate some inflammatory process which is measurable. You have to then think about what am I getting for this inflammatory hit. So if you eat leeks, for example, or cucumbers, and they cause less inflammation than red meat, you're not getting anything from that. It's just essentially just having water. You need to have foods that actually nourish your body. And actually, poor nourishment, malnourishment, causes inflammation. So if your body doesn't get enough protein, or vitamin D, or iron, or magnesium, or the right healthy fats, then that causes inflammation in your body, because your body has to carry out its normal processes in a manner which is not normal. It finds shortcuts, abnormal shortcuts to carry out its normal processes, its cells, the organs, the systems. And when it does this, this causes inflammation and injury to the body. So you need to nourish your body. And how you're going to get it? You're by eating the most nourishing foods on the planet, which are based around animal protein, red meat being one of them. That gives you your best bioavailable protein, your best micronutrients, such as iron, fish to give you vitamin D, fish and meat to give you protein and other micronutrients that you're not going to find in the same level in plants. So that's the first thing to say. All foods cause inflammation. What do you get from it? You need to nourish your body. Secondly, a lot of the studies that look at inflammation are contradictory and have not conclusively proven that red meat causes more inflammation than other foods. So, for example, a study from the British Journal of Nutrition compared consumption of oily fish and red meat. It's from about 10 years ago, and it found there's no difference in measured inflammatory markers in the blood between consuming oily fish and red meat. And most scientists will agree that consumption of oily fish reduces your risk of heart disease, which is an inflammatory condition. Another study looked at red meat and carbohydrates in an 8-week period in the Journal of Nutrition, and again found no difference between measured inflammatory markers. So again, these are just a couple of studies, and often these studies are quite small. So really, there's no conclusive proof that eating meat compared to other foods increases inflammation in the blood. And when you look at specific markers and look at the cell level, in a lab-based study, often you find these studies that find the link between red meat and inflammation look at one or two isolated chemicals. They're usually at higher concentration than is present in the body, and they don't really reflect real life. What does reflect real life? If you have somebody who eats a diet that is nutrient rich, that has low levels of carbohydrates, that doesn't smoke, doesn't drink alcohol, or drinks alcohol to minimum, does exercise, they're going to be healthier than somebody who cuts out meat completely and fish and eggs from their diet. Because that person, even though they may exercise, they may smoke, they're going to be deficient in nutrients. If you compare, however, somebody who's vegetarian, who has very low level of eggs and fish, and somebody who eats a lot of meat, but also eats bread and eats fries and full sugar Coke and smokes and drinks alcohol to excess, then that person is going to be unhealthier. And it's not going to be because of the meat. You're blaming meat for what the other poor lifestyle choices did. So the comparisons are not accurate. And lastly, I want to say another clear real life example of where linking meat and inflammation are real life examples are the Inuit tribes and Maasai tribes. Inuits who live in Canada and the Maasai live in Kenya, they have a high level of fish, meat and fat in their diet, low levels of actual vegetable and plant proteins. And they don't have high levels of chronic inflammation. I mean, there could be other reasons why they don't have inflammatory conditions like heart disease and diabetes, but that clearly shows that if you are consuming high levels of fish and red meat, you're not getting this constant inflammation, which is putting you at risk of heart disease and cancer. And again, why is that important to your journey to a healthier, fitter body? Because things that increase inflammation are going to make it harder for your body to burn fat. And also, you don't want to be consuming foods that might make you look lean and increase your fitness, but then increase your risk of heart disease and diabetes later on. So you want to be confident that you're eating the right diet that serves both your journey to a lean and fitter body, and also one that is metabolically optimized, doesn't have high levels of inflammation, doesn't increase your risk of disease. And the reality is, a diet that's based around good quality animal protein, non-starchy vegetables, minimizes carbohydrates, is one that does both. It does help you burn fat, it does help you get fitter and leaner, and it does reduce your risk of chronic inflammation. So let me know what you think about that video and if you have any questions on that topic.